Hi guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing another author highlight. This time we'll be talking about Riley Sager. The last time I did one of these, I talked about the author S.A. Cosby. So if you guys are interested in that, I will have that video linked down below. But as I mentioned, today is all about Mr. Riley Sager. Now, if you are like me and did not know this is something that I found out maybe a year or so ago. But Riley Sager is the pen name for Todd Ritter. And from what I learned, Todd Ritter decided that he wanted to use the name Riley Sager because it was gender neutral and he thought that it would be an easier way for him to get his books published. Now, before he started using the name Riley Sager, he actually used his own name and he produced a series. So he wrote that series from 2010 to 2013. The books in that series are Death Notice, Bad Moon, and Devil's Night. Also, from what I learned, Todd Ritter / Riley Sager really isn't a series type of person, so that was the only series that he has ever written. But I also found out that he used another pen name by the name of Alan Finn. He only wrote one book under this name. That was back in 2014. And that book is called Things Half in Shadow. Now, ever since 2014, so from 2017 up until now, 2023, he has solely gone by the name Riley Sager. And so those are all the books that I'm going to be talking about today. Only the books that he has written under the name Riley Sager. And I'm not going to talk about them in publication order, but if you want to know the books in publication order, we first start off Final Girls, The Last Time I Lied, Lock Every Door, Home Before Dark, Survive the Night, The House Across the Lake, and this most recent one that came out this year, The Only One Left. All of his books are adult mystery thrillers, and a couple of them involve like some horror / paranormal aspects. So how I would break down this video is I am going to talk about his books, not in publication order, but in the order that I enjoyed them. So we're going to start off with my least favorite, work my way up all the way to my favorite Riley Sager book. And I will give you my rating for each of the books along with the Goodreads rating. I thought that was interesting and I wanted to see if I was in the majority with a lot of these books. So we will go ahead and get started. So the first book that I'm going to start with, and it's also unfortunately my least favorite by Riley Sager, this is The House Across the Lake, which actually came out last year. In this book, we follow our main character, Casey. Casey is an actress. We learn that she recently lost her husband, and in order to deal with the death of her husband, she has turned to alcohol. And because she is drinking so much, she has made some mistakes in front of the paparazzi. And because of that, her mother was like, hey, maybe you should go to our family lake house so that you can kind of get yourself together so that you can recoup and deal with the death of your husband. Casey agrees. She goes out to the lake house. While she's there, she's also doing a lot of drinking, still trying to get over her grief. But she finds these binoculars and she decides that it's going to be a good idea for her to spy on her neighbors, Catherine and Tom. Casey and Catherine sort of become friends. They're at least friendly because one day when Casey was chilling at the lake, she sees Catherine drowning in the middle of the lake and she goes out there and saves her. A little while after that, Casey realizes that Catherine has gone missing. And so she uses those same binoculars so she can spy on her husband, Tom, and figure out if he has something to do with Catherine's disappearance. We also learn throughout the story that at this lake, or like the town surrounding the lake, some girls have gone missing. And so Casey kind of gets wrapped up in that as well. So I rated this book a 2 stars. Goodreads has an average rating of 3.58, which was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, and surprisingly is not his lowest rated book. We will get to that later. I did really enjoy the character of Casey. I really liked the fact that she was an unreliable narrator because she was doing a lot of drinking, so we couldn't really trust a lot of the things that was going on around her. And I really thought the beginning of this was really intriguing. Of course, learning about Casey, her work being an actress, her relationship with her husband. And I thought the story was actually kind of fast paced with how it was moving. There is also one twist in here that I really liked. And going into my dislikes, I did not like the last main twist in this book, and it is either going to work for you or it is not going to work for you, and obviously it did not work for me. There were also a couple of twists in here that were somewhat predictable, but that main one is one that I just did not like. What I did not know going into this book is that there are Easter eggs in here for his other books. I did not pick up on any of that, so that was news to me. I also found out that Riley Sager knew where this book was going to be headed, because in some of his books he wasn't exactly sure like what the final twist was, but he knew that this one was going to go in this weird, strange direction that it went into. Again, you'll either like it or not, but he knew that that's where he was going with this book, which is mind-blowing to me. Also, earlier this year, this book was picked up to be adapted by Netflix, which I would be interested in that, because I would like to see how they produce like the twist in here. So I think I would rather see it and not read about it when it comes to this book. So then the next one that we have by Riley Sager is Final Girls, which was actually the first book that he wrote under Riley Sager. And in this one, we are following our main character by the name of Quincy, and Quincy is considered a final girl because she had went to this cottage. It was called Pine Cottage with a group of her friends. Every last one of her friends were murdered except for Quincy. So Quincy is considered a final girl. So she actually became friends with some other final girls that had their own situations. So we had Lisa and Sam. Eventually, Quincy finds out that Lisa was murdered. Once she finds that out, all of a sudden, Sam comes to Quincy and they're trying to figure out why Lisa was murdered. And then Quincy finds it awfully strange that Sam is so invested in what happened in her final girl situation. So I gave this one a 3 stars. The average Goodreads rating is 3.84, which it looks like I was right there with everyone else. But the thing that I really liked about this book and what really worked for me is I loved learning about the final girls and what their situation was. We get a lot of backstory, of course, on Quincy and what took place with her at Pine Cottage, and those are told in flashback chapters. And then we do get some information on the other final girls, Lisa and Sam, which I really liked. Now, if this book had just been about what took place at Pine Cottage, I probably would have enjoyed it so much more, but because it did not, hence the 3-star rating. I also thought this book was really slow. It's really not a lot going on because we are just looking into the murder of Lisa and trying to figure out why all of a sudden Sam popped up. And I thought some of the twists and reveals in here were sort of predictable. So yeah, overall, I just kind of thought this book was fine. I did read this book as a part of another video that I did, my Which One Is Better series. So I had read all books that were involving final girls. So it was this book, Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix, and I believe the other book is called The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. So I will have that video linked in case you guys are interested. So I did learn that Riley Sager got the inspiration for this book from the movie Halloween, which in that movie, there is a final girl. So the inspiration to me is quite clear. And this is gonna be a theme with the rest of these books, but this one also got picked up to be adapted. Now, he did say in an interview that I had watched with him that all of his books at some point were picked up. Some of them, though, are not actively in production, not only because of the writer's strike that's unfortunately going on right now, but because after they have been like optioned, if it takes too long for them to then actually adapt it into whatever it is they're trying to adapt it into, I think that process has to like start over. So I'm not really sure which ones are like active and which ones are not, but all of them have been like optioned for something. So then the next one that we have is Lock Every Door. So this one follows our main character. Her name is Jules, and she is really down on her luck. She has some personal things going on with her family. Her sister is missing. She has no money, and so she's trying to figure out what she needs to do. So then she comes across this ad to be a apartment sitter at this like really famous creepy looking apartment building called the Bartholomew. And so she's going to be getting paid a lot of money to apartment it, but it comes with a lot of rules. And the deal seems too good to be true, but of course, Jules decides to take it because she's in a really bad situation. So while she is there, she actually meets a couple of the other apartment sitters, and one girl in particular that she meets by the name of Ingrid goes missing, and Jules obviously takes it upon herself to figure out what the heck happened to Ingrid. And while she's looking into Ingrid, she gets a lot of backstory about the Bartholomew and learns that a lot of strange things are happening in this apartment building. I gave this one a 3 stars. The average Goodreads rating is 3.91. And if you look at a lot of other people's rankings for Riley Sager books, this one is usually at the top. And for me, I just thought this one was fine. I did just like the overall mystery. I loved the final twist in here. I thought it was really easy to get through. This is one of the ones that I listened to on audio, and it was just like a really quick listen. But other than that, I just was not really invested in the story. I didn't really care about our main character, Jules. When the girl Ingrid went missing, I didn't feel anything for her. I just didn't understand the hype that everyone else gave this book, because it was just literally fine. There were some a few paranormal aspects in here. The only word that I can describe this book, it was fine. And again, this is it got picked up to be adapted into a TV show. Not sure if that is going to continue to be a thing. But again, I would rather probably see this as a show or a movie. I just didn't have that great of a time reading it. So then the next one we have is Survive the Night. So this one follows our main character by the name of Charlie. This book actually takes place in 1991. Charlie is in college. She learns that there is this campus killer that is on the loose, and it's approaching one of their breaks. I don't know if it's a Thanksgiving break or a Christmas break, but it's some sort of break where she is trying to get home for college. She sees on one of those message boards on campus where this guy is offering rides home for people that need to get home. And so she decides, while there is this campus killer out there, to accept a ride from a complete stranger. So this whole book is just revolving around Charlie and the guy she accepts a ride from, and we're trying to figure out, is this guy the campus killer? So I gave this one a 3 stars. The average Goodreads rating for this is 3.52, which this is the lowest rated book for Riley Sager. And when this came out, a lot of people ripped this book to shreds. Now, I mean, granted, I did give it a 3 stars, which 3 stars isn't bad. And I kind of thought the book was fun and funny. Charlie was stupid. She was stupid throughout this entire book. This is the only book that I have of Riley Sager's where I actually made tabs, because I made tabs, or I put tabs in here every time Charlie did something that was stupid. I loved her as a character. I thought she was hilarious. This book's probably not supposed to be funny, but I thought the book was hilarious. I love the fact that she's an unreliable narrator in this situation because she suffers from hallucinations. Fun fact about that is that Riley Sager purposely made her have this issue with her mental health and hallucinations, because he needed to have a reason for her to actually stay in this car with this guy who could potentially be the campus killer. It also kind of made sense on why she would be so trusting of this guy that she doesn't know. Well, things change as the book continues to go on. But I love that part of this book. Now, where this book lost me was towards the end, when some stuff was starting to be revealed and the twist started to come. Some were predictable, some were not, but some of it was so out there to me that I was just okay, I guess. But overall, I just had a fun time with this book. Other people did not like it, but overall, I mean, I thought it was a good time. So then the next one we have is Home Before Dark. And so this one follows our main character by the name of Maggie. When she was younger, her mom and dad lived in this house that was called Bainbury Hall, but they only lived there for about 20 days before they got the hell out of Dodge. Some crazy stuff was happening in that house. They just couldn't handle it, so they decided to leave. Years later, her dad publishes this book where he described their experiences in this house for those 20 days. He ended up making a lot of money, became very popular. The house became popular. Like, people would want to go out there and take pictures and go see what was inside the house to see if what he wrote about was true. And so this whole time this is happening, Maggie just doesn't believe that what her father wrote in that book was true. She doesn't really have like clear memories of being in the house, but she just doesn't believe that what her father wrote was true. So her father passes away, he leaves her the house, and she decides that she's going to go to the house, get it ready to sell, and also try to debunk everything that her father wrote in this book. I gave this one a 4 stars. The average Goodreads rating is 4.08, and I had a fun time with this one. So the one thing that I really enjoyed about this book was how it was written. It's basically a book within a book. So every few chapters, we are getting what her father wrote in the book about their experiences in this house, starting with day 1 all the way up until the day that they fled. And I really like that. I love trying to figure out if in fact what he wrote was true. I love like the paranormal aspects in this. Parts of this was actually really creepy to me. I just really enjoyed the overall storytelling of this book. Again, this is one of those books that have been optioned to be adapted. I think this one got picked up back during COVID in 2020, but I think it was put on hold because of the pandemic. And also, Riley Sager said that he got a lot of inspiration for this book from the Amityville Horror, which that's another movie. I'm not sure if it's a book, but I know for sure it's a movie because I've seen multiple adaptations of that, and I can clearly see the inspiration from this book. But I really enjoyed this one. So then the next one that I have is the only one left, and this is his most recent release. And so in this one, in 1929, this girl by the name of Lenora Hope was accused of murdering her whole entire family. So that's her mother, her father, and her older sister. And there's even a rhyme about the murders that took place. But because there wasn't a lot of evidence, Lenora was let go. She wasn't charged with the murders, but a lot of people stay away from her because obviously they believe that she did it. So fast forward to 1983, Lenora Hope has had several strokes. Her health is declining, and she is living at her family's home that's like on this cliff, and she needs a caregiver. Since she had those strokes, she has no use of her body besides her left hand. So Kit becomes Lenora's caregiver. So Kit has some other things going on in her life where she got suspended from her job because of something that happened with the last patient that she was taking care of. So now that she's back at work, the only job that she can get is taking care of Lenora Hope, mainly because nobody else wants to do it. But because they don't really know what to do with Kit, they tell her, hey, if you want to work here still, you need to go take care of this lady. Kit reluctantly agrees. So she is stuck on this cliff with Lenora, trying to basically pass the time. While she's there, she also learns that the previous caregiver just fled in the middle of the night one night, and Kit is like, why? So while she is taking care of Lenora, she realizes that Lenora can actually communicate. So she taps out her responses for yes and no. I don't remember if it's like 1 tap for yes, 2 taps for no. Something like that. She is able to communicate with Kit that way, and she's also able to use this typewriter. And so one day, Lenora tells Kit that she is ready to tell her story about what really happened the night her family was murdered. I gave this story a 5 stars. The average Goodreads rating is 4.21. But I was intrigued with the story from start to finish. I never thought that there were any slow moments. I loved learning about Kit and her backstory and what happened to her last patient. I loved learning about Lenora and what happened with her family. And I really enjoyed the way the story was told because I mentioned that Lenora is able to use the typewriter. So we get these sections every few chapters of Lenora's typewritten story of what happened to her family. Absolutely love this. I also really liked all of the twists / reveals that we got through the story. Now that does bring me kind of to my dislikes because at a certain point I thought that there were too many twists and reveals and things that were just thrown at us one after the other, after the other, after the other. Some of them I really liked. There was one twist in here that just literally blew my mind after I just sat and thought about it for a second. But majority of them I liked, some of them I didn't. I just didn't really like how fast they were coming at us, and I wish that maybe Riley Sager could have spread the twist out over the story. But other than that, I absolutely loved this. I loved that it took place on like this creepy house on top of a cliff. I just love the setting. It has like a gothic feel to it. And I just love that we also had sort of a paranormal aspect in here as well. But this one, I would highly recommend this book because this is one of my favorites by Riley Sager. He said for this book that he was heavily inspired by Lizzie Borden. I think we all know who Lizzie Borden is. And when he began to write this book, he actually started off with a rhyme. So there is a rhyme about Lenora Hope and the murders that people say that she committed. He said that he started off with that rhyme first and then was able to craft the rest of the story. Again, I just loved everything about this. So the last one that I have to talk about is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. And so 15 years ago, this girl, Emma, she was at this summer camp. She was in a bunk with 3 older girls. And one night the 3 older girls decide that they're gonna go out. They leave Emma behind, but the girls never returned. They went missing. No one was ever able to find out what happened to them. And so all of this time, Emma has felt a lot of guilt about that night because she feels like she might have contributed in some way to them going missing. Now, because the girls went missing and they were never seen from again, the camp ended up closing because of like all the negative press around their disappearance. Emma receives a visit 15 years later from the person that owns the camp, asking her to come back to the camp and teach art because Emma has become a really famous painter. So Emma reluctantly agrees, and she tells herself that she's going to use this time to figure out what happened to her old bunkmates. So while she is there, she is actually placed in a bunk with 3 other girls, so 3 younger campers, and they go missing. So the whole book revolves around Emma trying to find out what happened to the 3 previous girls that they never found, and now she has to find out what happened to the 3 new girls that just went missing. So I ended up rating this one a 5 stars. The average Goodreads rating for this one is 4.05. I just ate this book up. I love the way that this one was also told. So we're getting like the past and the present chapters. So in the past is 15 years ago, and we get some backstory on those 3 girls and what led up to their disappearance. And then in the present, obviously, Emma is trying to figure out everything surrounding their disappearance and the disappearance of the 3 new girls. But I just loved those flashback chapters and getting insight into them, what happened all those years ago. I also love that this one also had sort of a paranormal aspect, and you kind of questioned, was something going on at the camp, or was something else happening outside of the camp that caused these girls to go missing? The one thing I really enjoyed about this book that's not going to work for everybody is that final twist at the end. It left me so angry at first, because if you know, you know. But I was just so angry that that's where this went. But then afterwards, I just got really on board with this book. I just loved how everything just kind of came together, and I was a fan of this twist. Again, some people are gonna like it, some people aren't, but it definitely worked for me. And a funny thing that I learned in regards to that final twist is that Riley Sager didn't know that that was actually going to be the twist. He didn't go into this book saying that that was what was gonna happen. It just kind of ended up that way, and that made me like it even more. So those are all of the books by Riley Sager. Those are my ratings. So my least favorite was The House Across the Lake, and my most favorite, even though I had 2 5 stars, the one out of those that I really enjoyed was The Last Time I Lied. So I saw an interview that Riley Sager did, and he said he is currently working on a new book. Of course, I wouldn't doubt it, because he has came out with a book every year since 2017. So next year, his book is going to be set in a suburban New Jersey, and for the first time ever, we are going to get the story mostly told from the male perspective. If you have not noticed from the books that I have talked about today, all of those books involve a female lead. And so this is the first time that we are going to get a book with a male lead. So I'm really excited about that. I'm curious of how that's going to go, and I'm just so curious about what the story is going to be. So that is all that I have for you guys in regards to Riley Sager, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.